Emergency Response Training for Portland Public School Staff. Let's start with a brief overview. The Portland Public School District's Multi-Hazard School Emergency Response Plan, also known as SERP, is a set of guidelines and protocols to help staff and students prepare for and respond to emergency situations that could occur at or near school. These guidelines do not replace the need for staff and students to have situational awareness when it comes to emergency situations. It is essential for all district employees, contractors, volunteers, and students, when faced with an emergency, to remain calm, assess the situation, and make a decision that will save lives, prevent injury, and protect property and the environment. Each school site has an individualized plan that includes the following: identified primary and secondary evacuation sites, a trained school emergency team, student-to-family reunification procedures, and mandatory emergency drills. It is up to you to review the individualized plan at your worksite. The school emergency plan was developed using the 4 phases of emergency management. The first phase, prevention or mitigation, includes activities that can prevent emergencies, reduce the chance of an emergency happening, or reduce the damaging effects of unavoidable emergencies. The mitigation phase takes place before and after emergencies. Preparedness. This phase takes place before an emergency occurs. The activities include emergency planning, emergency training, and emergency drills to prepare students, staff, and the community to respond effectively during an emergency. The next phase is response, responding safely to an emergency. This is when the preparedness plans are put into action during the emergency. And the recovery phase, activities that take place after an emergency, which may include parent-to-child reunification, mental health support, and building repairs. The actions in the recovery phase are taken in order to return to normal or an even safer situation following the emergency or disaster. Signals and actions. The school emergency response plan consists of 6 emergency signals and 6 actions. These signals and actions are lockout, lockdown, lockdown team response, evacuate, shelter in place, and duck, cover, and hold on. The next section of this training will be spent going over the emergency signals and actions. Let's get started. Lockout. Secure the perimeter. The lockout secure the perimeter signal will generally be communicated by using the VoIP phone emergency messaging system or by verbal command from a building administrator. A threatening situation outside the school building, such as police activity in the area, an unattended or wild animal near school, or an unsafe situation that requires students and staff to remain in the building, are examples of when a lockout secure the perimeter action would be called. The purpose is to control movement inside and outside in order to safeguard students and staff in the building. When a lockout is activated, designated personnel will respond to the main office. All exterior doors are locked. Students and staff outside the building will be immediately brought inside. Lockout signs will be posted on entrance doors notifying anyone coming to the building of the lockout. During the lockout, nobody will be allowed in the building and nobody is allowed out unless the principal, building leader, or law enforcement determines it is safe to do so. Teachers are asked to take attendance and note any missing students at the time the lockout was called. Teachers may continue instruction, however, they should increase situational awareness in their classrooms during the lockout. Business should run as usual inside the school. The school will remain in lockout until the all-clear signal is given by the principal, principal's designee, or law enforcement. Now let's discuss. What happens to students and staff who are located in portables during a lockout? In most circumstances, when staff in a portable or outbuilding receives the lockout secure the perimeter signal, they would secure the portable door, close open windows, take attendance, and continue instruction. If a class change is required during a lockout, it will be up to the building administrator to determine if it is safe to move students or if they should remain in the portable. If a lockout occurs during normal passing time or non-class periods, students and staff should continue to their normal schedules unless otherwise directed by the building administrator. Remember, a lockout is for an unsafe situation outside the school building. Lockouts are typically called for by law enforcement officials.
Hi, this is Evan with Police Department.
Or district personnel.
A lockout. Okay, thank you for the information. Bye-bye.
Attention students, we're in lockout, secure the perimeter. Lockout, secure the perimeter.
The goals of a lockout are to get all students and staff safely inside the building.
Guys, come on in. You need to get inside. Go to the first classroom on the right. Hurry, 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 hurry.
And then lock all exterior doors. In most cases of a lockout, it will be business as usual inside the school. However, in some cases, a lockdown may also be issued in conjunction with a lockout, particularly if there is a threat near the school. Lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight. The lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight signal will generally be communicated by using the VoIP phone emergency messaging system, by verbal command from a building administrator, or by a building staff member. The lockdown signal can be initiated from every phone in a school building by any staff person. An active threat in a building or very near, imminent danger to staff and students, or a hostage situation are all examples of when a lockdown action would be called. The purpose of a lockdown is to create a physical, visual, and time barrier in order to allow law enforcement time to respond and eliminate the threat. When a lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight is activated, teachers should immediately admit students and adults in hallways into the classroom, lock the classroom door, move students away from the door, cover interior windows, turn off lights, silence cell phones, and remain quiet. Teachers should take attendance on the emergency attendance form, accounting for missing students or adults, and the additional students or adults who entered the classroom when the lockdown was called. Teachers should remain with their students at all times. Teachers should keep students calm and quiet and reassure them that help is on the way. All non-classroom staff should get to a safe room, lock the door, cover interior windows, silence cell phones, take attendance if you have students and/or other adults in the room with you. Once a classroom or safe room door has been locked, do not open the door for anyone. Do not call the main office. Wait. As soon as it is safe, information will be provided. Remember, only law enforcement or a building leader will release a lockdown by unlocking the door with a key. Be ready to move. Now let's discuss. If students and staff are outside the building when a lockdown is activated, they should not return to the building, but should move to a safe location off campus and wait for help. It is a recommendation that classroom doors remain locked during instruction time and either propped open or use a magnet strip to cover the door strike plate. If a lockdown is called, quick removal of the magnet will secure the door. If the fire alarm is activated during a lockdown, it is up to you to determine if evacuation should occur by increasing your situational awareness. Ask yourself, do you see signs of fire? Smell smoke? Are the sprinklers activated? Once you have assessed the situation, determine if you should evacuate and consider alternate egress routes. If evacuation is a safe option to get as far away from the threat as possible during a lockdown, staff and students may choose this option. Using situational awareness to determine the best course of action is crucial when faced with a threatening situation. Lockdown deals with an internal school threat and entails locking interior doors, turning off lights, and hiding. An easy way to remember this is locks, lights, out of sight. Since the threat is already in the building during a lockdown, there is no advantage to locking any unlocked exterior doors. In fact, locking these doors may put staff unnecessarily at risk. This also allows quick and easy access of law enforcement into your building. Lockdown Team Response. The Lockdown Team Response notification will generally be communicated by using the VoIP phone emergency messaging system or by verbal command from a building administrator. A medical emergency is an example of when the Lockdown Team Response signal would be called. The purpose for this action is to control movement inside the school while the designated school emergency team addresses the situation. When a Lockdown Team Response is called, the designated school emergency team will respond to the main office. Teachers will admit students in the hallways into their classrooms, then lock the classroom doors. Teachers should take attendance and resume instruction. All other available staff members should respond to the main office to assist with the situation. Classrooms should remain in Lockdown Team Response until the all-clear signal is given. Now let's discuss. If students and staff are outside the building when a Lockdown Team Response is called, the building administrator will determine if the students should remain outside and continue with their activities, or if they should be brought into a classroom. In most circumstances, the Lockdown Team Response is used to keep hallways clear for staff and first responders to respond to and manage the medical emergency without interference from other students. If a Lockdown Team Response occurs during normal passing time or non-class periods, students and staff should immediately go to their classrooms unless otherwise directed by the building administrator. Remember, a Lockdown Team Response is for medical-related emergencies, not unsafe situations. Fire. Evacuate immediately. In the event of a fire inside the school building, the standard notification will be the fire alarm. Staff is also encouraged to use the verbal command FIRE to notify staff and students. When the fire alarm sounds, you should immediately evacuate the building. Teachers should take the class roster, emergency flip chart, or red and green cards, an emergency attendance form, and the emergency bucket of supplies. Office staff should take the school crisis in a box, emergency medications, and any other emergency supplies. As you exit your classroom or work areas, turn off the lights and close the door. The goal in a fire evacuation is 50 feet within 60 seconds. Students and staff should get low, cover their mouth and nose with a shirt or jacket, and move quickly. Teachers should check their buddy classroom as they are evacuating. Be prepared to use an alternate exit. Your primary exit may be blocked by fire. Utilize alternate evacuation sites if the primary site is blocked or unsafe to assemble. Once at the evacuation site, quickly get to your designated area. Teachers should immediately take attendance on the emergency attendance form. Teachers will report their status by holding up a green card for all accounted for or a red card for missing students. Students should be kept calm and quiet while waiting for the all clear or additional directions. Now let's discuss. If you can do so, safely take with you your cell phone and purse or wallet. Students should not stop to collect their belongings or re-enter a classroom to get their belongings. If you are new to a building, you should always take the time to identify the building exits, know locations of the fire extinguishers, inquire about evacuation routes, and the primary and secondary evacuation assembly areas. If you are in a building with elevators, they should never be used during a fire evacuation. Never re-enter a building until authorized by fire or safety officials. If a fire alarm sounds during a lockdown, do not leave your safe location unless you are certain a fire is threatening your room. If you are forced to evacuate due to a fire, keep in mind the hallway may not be the safest escape route. Shelter in place. remain indoors. The shelter-in-place remain indoors signal will generally be communicated using the VoIP phone emergency messaging system or by verbal command from a building administrator. Chemical, radiological, or biological contaminant released into the environment are examples of when a shelter-in-place action would be called. The purpose is to keep students, staff, and perhaps the local community indoors while the contaminant or toxin passes by or is disposed of properly. When a shelter-in-place is called, all outside activities will be immediately canceled, and students and staff will be brought into the school and the outside doors will be locked. The building administrator may allow members of the community to take shelter in the school, depending on the emergency situation. Teachers may be asked to move students to interior rooms and seal windows and doors to prevent outside airflow. The building custodian may be asked to turn off heating and ventilation systems. Teachers should take attendance and report any missing students to the building administrator. Typically, a shelter-in-place remain indoors is declared by the City or County Office of Emergency Management. The school will remain in the shelter-in-place action until the all clear is given by the building administrator or emergency responders. Now let's discuss. Generally, there is about a 15-minute window to get students and staff to safety once a shelter-in-place is called. Isolating the inside environment from the outside contaminant is the objective of the shelter-in-place action. Duck, cover, and hold on. Earthquake. The signal for earthquake is the ground moving. At the first sign of shaking or movement, staff should give the duck, cover, and hold on command. If students and staff are indoors, everyone should get under a desk or table, clasp one hand firmly behind the head, covering the neck, wrap the other arm around a table or chair leg. If you are unable to get under a hard surface, you should stand next to an inside wall. Stay away from computers, televisions, stacks of books, file cabinets, and other heavy objects. Get as far away from windows as possible. Drop to your knees with your back to the windows. Clasp one hand firmly behind your head, covering your neck. Bury your face in your arms, protecting your head. Close your eyes tightly and stay in the duck, cover, and hold on position until the earthquake is over. Before releasing the duck, cover, and hold on position, staff should check themselves for injury and identify any injuries or special needs of students. Teachers should not automatically rush students out into the hallway or out an exterior door. These areas may be unsafe. Teachers should wait to hear from an administrator or school emergency team member. In circumstances in which a significant amount of time has passed and there have been no additional instructions, staff will need to assess the situation and make a decision to evacuate. Teachers should account for all students before leaving the classroom. If students and staff are outdoors when the shaking starts, students and staff should move away from buildings, trees, poles, and other potential falling hazards. Staff should give the drop, cover, and hold on command. Students and staff should cover as much skin surface as possible, close eyes, and cover ears. When alerted to evacuate, or you have made the decision to evacuate, look for the safest route. Teachers should take student rosters, any emergency supplies, and personal belongings if they can be reached safely. Teachers should check the adjacent or buddy classroom and assist the class if necessary. All students and staff should assemble at the designated safe assembly area. Teachers should take attendance again at the evacuation site and display the appropriate alert card. Green card, all students accounted for, and red card, missing students and/or assistance needed. Staff should be prepared to stay with students until they can be reunified with their families. Now let's discuss. Most injuries in an earthquake occur from falling objects. In order to mitigate these types of injuries, building staff should conduct a hazard hunt, identifying hazards in their work areas that could fall during an earthquake. Oftentimes, after a seismic event, there will be aftershocks. If an aftershock occurs, everyone should duck, cover, and hold on until the shaking stops. Keep in mind that electricity, gas, water, and telephones may not work. Having an emergency plan for your family that includes a communication plan will allow you to know your family is safe so you can take care of students. This concludes the Emergency Signals and Actions section of the Emergency Response Plan training session. Next, we will move into how to account for students and staff and how to activate the emergency signals. Taking attendance during an emergency. Accountability of students and staff during and after an emergency is essential to recovery. The quicker everyone can be accounted for, the easier the incident is to manage for administrators and first responders. Here is an example of the emergency attendance form that staff will use to be able to easily account for the additional students and/or adults that were added to classrooms or work areas during an emergency, and those students or adults that are missing from the classrooms or work areas when the emergency action was called. The emergency attendance form should be located in classrooms with the class rosters, alert cards, and other emergency supplies. Office staff will be responsible for accounting for volunteers and visitors in the building. In the event of a building evacuation, the volunteer and visitor sign-in should be collected and taken to the evacuation assembly area, along with the other emergency supplies. Emergency communications. Emergencies are unpredictable and can happen at any time, anywhere. Therefore, a communication and notification system is essential. Portland Public Schools has implemented an emergency messaging system using the VoIP phones. Every phone in every PPS building is equipped to be able to broadcast emergency signals. This means any staff member has the ability to activate an emergency message notifying their school that an emergency action is required. Here are the 4 simple steps. Step 1. Select the Services button on any phone located in the school. Step 2. Highlight your school name, the word Emergency, and press Select or press 1. Step 3. At the confirmation page, press Select. Step 4. Highlight the message you want to activate and press Select or press the number key for that message. Once you have activated the emergency message, you will not be able to cancel the activation. Once the emergency is over, pressing Exit will clear the message from the phone display. Please note, currently the VoIP emergency messaging system does not cover most common areas. Your school administrator has additional notification procedures such as two-way radios, runners, megaphones, and voice commands to help augment communication in these areas. Individuals from security, transportation, facilities, IT, and communications will be automatically notified when an emergency message has been broadcasted from a VoIP phone. Now let's test your knowledge. It's time to see what we have learned. You will be given a series of questions testing your knowledge of the school emergency response plan. At the conclusion of these questions, you will be asked to complete a staff skills survey. This survey will help PPS understand the depth of resources amongst all district employees and will help shape our ability to mitigate, prepare, respond, and recover from any emergency or disaster. Let's get started. Select the correct answer for the following questions. The 4 phases of emergency management are A. Mitigate, stay, return, and prepare. B. Respond, help, drill, planning. C. Mitigate, prepare, respond, recovery. Or D. Communicate, guide, prepare, and respond. PPS uses which emergency signals and actions? A. Lockout, lockdown, lockdown team response, evacuate. B. lockout, lockdown, lockdown team response, evacuate, shelter in place, duck, cover, and hold. C. Lockdown, triangle of life, fire, lock in, evacuate. Or D. Shelter in place, earthquake. A staff member has a seizure in the front hallway. Which emergency action would you use? A. Shelter in place. B. Lockout. C. Evacuate. D. Lockdown team response. Or E. All of the above. During passing time, you notice smoke billowing out from underneath the door of the boys' restroom. What is the appropriate emergency signal and action? A. Fire alarm, evacuation. B. Lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight. C. Duck, cover, and hold on. Or D. Shelter in place, remain indoors. You and several students are outside the school building when you hear the lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight emergency message. What should you do? A. Run back into the school and find a classroom to lock down. B. Leave the students and try to find out what is happening. C. Take students and find a safe place off campus. D. Ignore the emergency message and go about business as usual. Or E. None of the above. The earth starts shaking due to an earthquake. You should A. Lock the door to your area and continue instruction. B. Immediately evacuate. C. Stand in a doorway until the shaking stops. D. Ride out the shaking like a surfer on a wave. E. None of the above. You are informed by a parent that there are several police cars in the area in what looks like a police chase. What emergency signal and action would you use? A. Lock out, secure the perimeter. B. Duck, cover, and hold on. C. Lock down, locks, lights, out of sight. Or D. Fire, evacuation. An evacuation has been signaled. Once at the evacuation assembly site, you realize you are missing a student. You should do the following. A. Go back into the building to find the student. B. Hold up a green card, figuring the student is with another teacher. C. Yell frantically the student's name. D. Hold up a red card signaling you need assistance. Or E. All of the above. You are in your classroom or work area when you notice out the window a person entering the school with a weapon in their hand. How will you notify the building, and what signal and action should you use? A. Email, lockout, secure the perimeter. B. VoIP emergency message, lockdown, lock, lights, out of sight. C. Cell phone to call the office. D. Nothing. Someone else will activate the signal. You have been in lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight for some time when there is a knock on the door and you are told to open up. The lockdown is over. You should A. Open the door. B. Call the main office to see if the situation is resolved. C. Question the person knocking on the door. D. Stay silent until an administrator or first responder opens the door with a key. Your school has been notified from the city that a large tanker truck has overturned and a contaminated toxic cloud is headed toward the school. What is the emergency signal and action, and how much time do you have? A. Evacuate, 50 feet in 60 seconds. B. Lockout, 30 minutes. C. Lock down, immediately. D. Shelter in place, 15 minutes. You are in the hallway and you see an unknown adult without an identifying ID badge looking in classrooms. What should you do? A. Ask them if you can help them. B. Inquire if they had a chance to check in at the main office. C. Offer to escort them to the main office. D. If they refuse help, notify the main office immediately. Or E. All of the above.